Hi everyone, it's Kari, and I wanted to pre-record the CCC Photo Time for June because I'm going to be traveling during this scheduled time. And this month, I wanted to revisit a topic that we talked about 2 years ago. So it's actually been a while, and I thought it was important enough to revisit again. So I wanted to remind you about the process of digitizing your traditional scrapbook pages and why you might want to do that, how you can do that, and once you've done that, what kinds of things are open to you once you have them digitized. So I have done that myself for a lot of my own albums. And I just wanted to share with you a quick story about that because right now we are packing to move, and my daughter asked me about her baptismal certificate, and I didn't have an idea of where it might be. And first I thought, maybe, but it's packed somewhere. And then I said, you know what? I did a scrapbook page on that. And I am pretty sure I can find that scrapbook page here in my Forever account. And you can see I have it here. I have a copy of it. It has a couple of stickers over it, but it is here and available for her to access. So she has access to it, and that was a great reminder to me about it's not just leaving a legacy for your traditional or your traditional scrapbook pages, but there's also some real life opportunities for being able to share things with others in your day-to-day life. And since all of my physical albums are packed in boxes at the moment, I was really glad that I had these digitized so I could access them and give that to her. So, just a reminder, part of why you might want to do that is preserving your stories. It makes it for easier sharing. You can create multiple copies that don't take up a whole lot of physical space. They're actually lighter to utilize and move around. And it makes it a little bit easier to make copies for family members. And just to kind of remind you about that, this is a picture that was created by somebody else with some of their traditional scrapbook albums. And they had them scanned and then reprinted in these books that are shown over on the right-hand stack. And you can see the significant space savings that you have there when you actually have them digitized and put into a digital book, which is awesome, but you don't have to print them. It's just an option that you have there. So just a reminder, anytime you digitize things, it doesn't necessarily replace your original scrapbook. It just gives you some additional options. Now, there are a lot of people who are downsizing and going through the process of reducing things that they have, and they may decide that they do want to replace the stack that's on the left with the stack that's on the right, and that is up to them. But you don't have to. So if you're curious or want to consider digitizing some of your scrapbook album pages, you might want to think about, do you just want the digital copy? Do you want to be able to save them with other people? Are you interested in making copies for family members or friends, or maybe printed books with some or many of the pages? Do you want all of these things? And so, depending on what you want to do, it kind of determines what process you want to do. So I want to show you a couple of things in my Forever account. So when I go back and I look at this page, I just want to point out a number of things about the page that as it is, well, it was scanned. So it has a title, a name here of the file up in the upper right-hand corner. It has the date that it was taken, which happens to be the date that it was scanned. and the date that it was uploaded here. And I'm using forever.com in my storage here. But you notice here the date taken and the date uploaded happened to be the same because as soon as I had it scanned, I uploaded it. But you notice this date is not anything like what the date is on the item down here. So it says this is actually October 30th, 2002, which was her birthday, but the date of the baptism is February 23rd of 2003. And so if I really want this to represent when this was taken, I'm going to just put it down as a specific date. I'm going to go and navigate to 2003. I'm going to go back to February, and it was February 23rd. And now it has the actual date that this event occurred. So when you are scanning things, you are going to find a lot of things end up having the date that they were scanned as opposed to the date that they were actually the page was actually either created or it is referencing. So sometimes you may want to go back and fix that. Other times you may want to decide that you're not going to do that. And depending on what system you're using, you might be able to do that in bulk with a system like Forever that allows you to do a whole grouping of items. So I could identify that all of these are from 2002 or 2003. And that might be adequate for what I'm doing. I don't necessarily have to go back and do a specific date for every single one of them. You can also put descriptions about that, which is helpful. You can also organize your albums. So as you can see, I have albums organized here. I do have them identified with what they are. They're in chronological order at the moment. But this allows me to be able to find things, which was very helpful when I was looking for that specific item here. So a couple of things that people ask questions about, and I just want to share. So this is an album page that I created, and you can see that there is some ribbon on the embellishment here. These are also like pop-up sticky dots, and so they are raised a little bit off of the page, but the page, it's still able to be scanned. So that doesn't really matter. So if you do have embellishments on there, it is just perfectly fine to do that. I also have another page here. This was some cards that we got in order to go and snorkel in Jellyfish Lake. And there was a flyer that I had here, and you can kind of see that it was from page 57 from some tourist booklet that I had. And I decided I wanted to make use of this. These are some postcards that I put right in my scrapbook album. And again, these are perfect to scan. Some other things that I think are a little bit more challenging are if you have coins or other memorabilia. This is a great time to be using memorabilia pockets. And part of the reason is how these pages are scanned, that they end up on a flatbed scanner. And I'll show you a picture of that in a moment. And these coins, not only if they're not adhered well to the scrapbook page, but they can also scratch the surface of the scanner. And so you can see here that there is some glare from when the scan was processed. And so that happens when you have plastic over the top of your page. So this also gives you an idea of if you have pages that are scanned with the sheet protectors on, you might actually have some of this glare that comes off because basically it's taking in essence, a flash photo of the scrapbook page. And whenever you get a flash, you can get reflection back on things. But if I zoom in here, if I really want to just look at these coins, I can still see the coins quite well. So it doesn't end up really affecting what I cared about for this specific page, and that's just fine. So some questions that we get about that. And in addition, sometimes you might have additional things inside a scrapbook album. This was a field book that we used when I was fortunate enough to go with my daughter on a trip to Crow Canyon Archaeological Center. And this was the booklet that they gave all the kids to fill out. I utilized mine so that we would have a copy of some of it. And it had some information not only about where we were and what we did, but also some of the other things that we did that the students learned about and did when we were there. So this is smaller than a scrapbook page, but because the album that it was in was a 12 by 12 and this was much smaller, but this was still something that could be scanned and preserved. And this way my daughter has that information in our Forever account. And just a reminder, it's not any different than any of the rest of your photos, that it would be ideal to have all of your scanned scrapbook pages backed up with the 3-2-1 system, because even if it's stored only in one place, it can still be lost. So it would be really ideal. So let's take a look, because Forever has a promotion going on right now that they brought back to digitize scrapbook pages for $1. And it's 100 scans for $100. It goes through June 30th. So let me go back and click on this so we can take a look. So I had mentioned before about the scanning process, and you can see this on here. So your pages are handled with care with gloves, and they place them on a very nice flatbed scanner that is able to scan at a very high resolution. But like I mentioned about the coins, that if you have coins on your pages, those can actually scratch that glass that's on here. And once the glass is scratched, it can damage it for every other scan that's utilized after that. I like the fact that Forever takes care in not only carefully placing your scans on the flatbed scanner, they're using gloves to not get fingerprints on your photo, but they're also cleaning the scanner on a frequent basis. And that means that dust or anything else that might happen to fall off of somebody's page is not going to be there for anybody else's pages who are scanned after them. An additional thing that we get questions about is, do you want to scan with jeeping or no jeeping? So on this, you can see there is a page here that has this jeeping that Creative Memories utilizes on their scrapbook pages. And you can send in with jeeping or without jeeping, so loose scrapbook pages. And you can just designate whether you want to have jeeping scanned or not. And it is a personal preference. And there are people who end up putting important information right up to the very, very edge of their page. And I've scanned some albums for people who actually had stickers and writing on top of the jeeping. So depending on how those scrapbooks were created and how close to the edge they got, might also determine whether you want to scan those pages with jeeping or without. And you can designate that with Forever. So it's a great opportunity, a great time to be able to take advantage of $1 per scan, because it is a very time-consuming process to do them each individual page at a time, making certain that they're flat, making certain that they're straight, making certain that they capture the whole thing. So it is not an automated process at all, and you can see that here from the image. So it does take time. So having it done $1 per page or per page scan is a really good price. If you have a double-sided page, it is $2. So it's $1 per page scan. So some of the nice benefits that you get when you do purchase it, you do get 90 days free access to view, share, stream, and download. You can opt to store them in your permanent Forever account. You can also take and use that and share them at any other time. So I really am interested if this was of interest to you, because I'd love to hear from you about scanning your scrapbook pages. As you could see, I have a lot of scrapbook pages that I've scanned, and I've done them myself, and it does take quite a bit of time. And I'm hoping that this gives you some ideas or some thoughts on what you might want to do if you're scanning a scrapbook page. And since I'm not going to be live this month, but I'd really still like to hear from you. since normally this is an interactive photo time. Everybody who comments within a week of the video being posted, I'm going to enter them into a drawing for a forever gift certificate. So there are two questions that you can answer. One is, what was your biggest takeaway from this recording? Or you can also answer, what scrapbook album or project would you like to get digitized or preserved? So I just appreciate you taking this time out to be able to go ahead and take a look at preserving your scrapbooks and deciding whether this is an option that you might want to consider. And I hope that you will consider maybe having them done with forever. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, I would be happy to do that. And just remember that our scrapbooks are there to tell our stories. And so it's really an important thing to make certain that those stories that we think are important to preserve for future generations, that we make that as easy as possible for them. So I love the fact that we can digitize them and it doesn't damage our originals. It really doesn't replace them, but it does allow making those stories easier to preserve and access and share for the generations to come. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to reading your comments.